So there's
Which is even worse to check if you can't just walk up to somebody in the street and be like, show me your ID. Papers, please. Papers, please.
I'm ready. You guys ready?
Oh, we're not already doing it?
No.
I thought we were in it, man.
I gotta welcome to Talk Junkies, man.
You're right. Do it. Put it up.
Yeah, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Talk Junkies. Tonight's gonna be a good night. We are guest-free this evening. It's been about 6 weeks since we've done that, but we're excited. Last week we had a really interesting talk with Mike Anderson. We always love bringing Mike on the show.
Mike.
Yeah. Mike's an awesome guy. Again, his 2 books are up here. Check him out, all that good stuff. Mike, thanks again for coming on, man. We always appreciate your time that you bring to us. Didn't know you were a sports fan, by the way, Mike. So now we're very interested. Next time we have a podcast to talk some sports with you, man.
Yeah, I don't think that showed up on the last podcast, but before we started recording, when we were just talking to Mike, kind of shooting the shit, we talked for a solid 10 minutes about football and, like, in-depth football, too, like stats and players and stuff. Like, he was all about it.
He knew his stuff, man.
He did, man. But yeah, check that out, man. For anyone who didn't watch last week's video, eventually you'll see it as well. We did come out with our first intro as Talk Junkies. Very proud of that, man. The process of that was very interesting.
It was fun.
It was, man. Literally got in my truck, drove downtown. We took a few hours, and we got some good footage, and we shot our intro.
Yeah, decided for our intro we were going to be super goofy with it because life's short. You don't have to be serious all the time. You try to make people laugh. It's a big part of life, too, is to be able to get a laugh. I don't know.
Which I think anybody who watches us regularly realizes, or even if you don't watch us regularly, that like we have, personalities outside of just talking about serious government shit all the time.
Yeah,
we like to joke around and have a good time.
Honestly, that's mainly what we like to do.
Yeah, very true. Yes.
We like to dick around first, but obviously, things need to be taken seriously too. But for the most part, I don't know about everybody else, but I like to laugh. Life's too short not to laugh a little bit. So that's what we did with the intro.
100%. We got some interesting topics we're going to dive into tonight. We've already sparked our minds and had some great conversation before the podcast, so it's going to lead in right into this, man. And I don't know if you guys want to hit the first subject or the second subject first. If you want to go into the policing part, or if you want to do maybe some anarchy first.
I'm trying to think which way those lead into each other.
I think police first, because then that could lead into anarchy for sure.
Okay. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, and I don't really know how to start it off here. But, just recently myself, and this sounds so dumb because literally anybody out there can do this, and we've probably all done it before, just like everybody's watched Cops, even though it's not 4 o'clock yet or whatever. But I was, the other day, watching stupid YouTube videos of basically everything from illegal DUI checkpoints to people getting guns pulled on them by the police when they weren't doing anything, to police threatening people, saying that they were trespassing even though they were on their own property doing stuff. Just a bunch of stuff that, like, and I get it. The media shows a lot of bad stuff all the time. It doesn't always show the good. I'd say that, I'm not even going to throw out a number, but a small percentage of the police are actually bad. Like, the majority are out there to actually help you. But the system is corrupt and broken, and I think that most people out there realize that. Like, when you look at the stats of, like, checkpoints that the Supreme Court found unconstitutional anyways back in the day, and, like, that the majority of stuff that goes through there isn't even about DUI cases and stuff. It's little, like, they make their money off these little fix-it tickets and stuff, like with window tint and with your front plate being gone or whatever it is. But they're not pulling people over suspected of committing crimes. They're literally setting up money funding road blockades. Like,
And this is my biggest argument for it that's going to come up from a lot of people is, well, if you're not doing anything illegal, why are you worried about this? If you're not doing anything illegal, it should be fine. Then you just drive through and you do your business and leave. That makes partial sense to me, but what if out of nowhere police just decide to come in your house just to make sure you're not doing anything illegal? And they just come in, hey, this is, I know there's no suspect of anything criminal, but me and this police force are going to come in and completely nitpick your life to make sure that, you're just doing everything by the book. It sounds very totalitarian.
totalitarian.
Man, I still can't.
Totalitarian.
Or a police state.
That word right there. So that's what I'm saying.
Or authoritarian.
Authoritarian, and I guarantee you those people would be like, no, I wouldn't be cool with that. Police just coming into my house for 3 o'clock in the morning for no reason, no warrant, just to make sure that I'm not doing something illegal. It's very abrupt to your life. That is, you'd be like, man, that's the most unconstitutional thing. I don't care if you're right or left wing or whatever. Nobody would be okay with that. But checkpoints are literally doing that.
Checkpoints are the same thing. Stop and frisk is the same thing.
But
no knock warrants.
And this is the whole point: is you can't let this small thing, because once you allow the small thing, you don't know what it's going to be 50 years from now.
You give an inch, you give a mile.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
You give an inch, you get a mile, and that's my whole thing. So in my opinion, that argument doesn't work either. To where you're like, oh, but if you're not doing anything illegal, you shouldn't be worried about it. That's not what America's
doesn't
based
mean
on.
you should.
Look at the state that we're in, honestly, and let's start.
Jesse.
Let's start there, man. I know you were hitting it. You were hitting it, Jesse. I'm sorry, but let's look at the state that we're in. And minus COVID, in the police state that you're seeing with COVID, it's very scary, right? That we could be entering into an authoritarianism state. And like you said, Johnny, you went and described all those situations, man. And there's too many of those videos for there not to be something done about it. Like you said, something needs to change. Now, no one really has an answer, right? After the George Floyd incidents and shit like that, and there was defunding of the police in Minneapolis, there have been reports, and I would have to look and find that report, where the city council members in that city actually went to the police station and said, hey, where are the police? Where are they at? Because crime rate, what happened? It went up. Robberies went up. Carjackings went up. All that shit went up because they defunded the police, right? Because of the events that happened. So who has a clear-cut solution to what the issue is? I don't know the answer to that, but I think that maybe we could dive into that tonight with this subject.
I have a probable solution, not a clear-cut one, but for once, I think I have, because in general, we usually don't have solutions for anything.
Right.
I have an idea of a solution. I don't know how you would implement it.
But let me first go into, and I would love to hear it, man. I truly would. And I might go off on a little tangent here, but police have too much power, like you said. Like you told me earlier, like in the city that we live in, they literally changed the laws to where they're basically saying that it's not a DUI checkpoint, but they're actually making it a checkpoint for IDs or what may have it be. They're actually doing it for something different, right? So which
is even worse, to check if you can't just walk up to somebody in the street and be like, show me your ID. Papers, please. Papers, please. You know what I mean?
They legally get away with it on Missouri roads because you have to be a licensed to drive. But that's why they legally get away with it on the roads. They
broke the Constitution, man. The foundation, and we've talked about it many times with Dan and how we're all about the foundation of the Constitution, how beautiful it is. And for our state and our local governments to allow something like that to happen and then affect so many people's lives negatively when that should never even happen in the first place. And when you go to court, does it hold up? Well, most people don't know how to handle themselves in court in the first place, including myself. But the state that we're in, you're right, Johnny, something needs to change. I'm excited for this if you do have a solution. But for instance, we watched a video before the podcast started. A guy got pulled over for his windows being tinted. Again, these examples, there's too many of them. And he knew his rights. He knew his rights, so he told the cops, what's up, like just talking to him in a very mannerful way. Like, no, dude, like, I'm good, I'm chill. Like, leave me alone. I'm going to give you my papers and I'm going to be on my way. But he ended up getting a gun pulled on him for no reason because he was just he was defending himself. There was a video months ago, and I brought it up on a podcast. A dude literally got arrested for eating a cheeseburger on a Subway because they made a law that you cannot eat wherever you chill on the Subway,
Mm-hmm.
Like when you sit down and you're trying to wait to get on the Subway.
Oh, so like on the platform. Before the...
He was literally eating a cheeseburger. The city had made an ordinance. I don't know why. Maybe there's too much littering, shit like that. He was eating his cheeseburger. He got arrested because he didn't comply. The cop comes up to him. He's like, hey, man, can you just put the cheeseburger down, throw it away, save it for later, put it somewhere? He's like, no, I'm going to enjoy my cheeseburger. And the cop's like, no, you're not. And he's like, yes, I am. And he ate it, and he got arrested.
In the cop's defense, if that's a law, it is a law. I don't openly say that you should break the law.
Well, it's
I
the same
openly
with,
say that you shouldn't be stopped without them knowing or suspecting of a crime.
Was he physically put in handcuffs?
yes, physically put
Okay.
handcuffs
Which is
and taken to a
obviously an
squad car.
over...
That's ridiculous. You just write the dude a fucking ticket. Be like, hey man, I need
And
to. Now you're in violation. I get it. You don't agree with the law, but I have to handle the law myself. So I need to see your ID now because I have to write you a citation because you have to pay a $10 ticket, which the cheeseburger was probably $15 anyway, man.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think, like, for me and Johnny, like, when you talked earlier about the fact that you once a year you get into these cop videos, and I'm the same way, man. And I know I have a lot of friends that are the same way. And I was such against police and police brutality, man, that it infuriated me watching those videos. And it got me boiling to the point where I'm just like, something has to happen, man. These cops can't have this much power. Like I talked about with you guys 2 weeks ago when that 16-year-old was on suicide watch, the cops show up to his house. And this was in Overland Park, man, right down our back street.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was in Overland Park. And the kid was backing out to go to school, or it was 6 a.m. or whatever, and the cop's behind the van, and he's just like, police, police. As he's pulling out, the garage door's opening. That's loud. We all know that that's loud. Someone's behind your car, the garage door's going on. Maybe he has the radio turned up, don't hear it. So then the kid continues to back up. The cop moves away from the car, shoots in the car twice, striking the victim. And then he, of course, has got shot, pulls a whip in his own driveway, and he got shot 11 more times.
Because once you get shot once, everything's out of the book. You're just trying to save your own fucking life
Dude,
at that
yeah,
point.
it's flight or fright. Like, everything, all logic goes out the door.
Once you get hit with a bullet, I'm sure you just... No, you don't... Nobody knows how to react in that scenario.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Something needs to change. The city got sued, of course, and who paid for that? The taxpayers. Nothing happened to the cop. He lost his job, yes, but he still gets his pension. But I think what I'm trying to say is, like...
Seriously, you still
Yeah.
get your pension?
Yeah.
That's one thing I completely disagree with. You make a bad judgment call. I'm sorry. Like you lose, dude. People lose money in 401ks, put in 401ks places. And
If I make a bad judgment call, I get fired.
Killing people.
I don't. If I get fired, I get fired.
But people lose. Like you put money into the stock market and shit, and a company goes under. You didn't kill anybody, but you lost all your money. You killed somebody and you still get money? No, that makes no fucking sense.
But so, and I'll wrap it up. Sorry, I know I'm going on a little tangent here. I'll wrap it up. That's the kind of shit that infuriates me, and it makes me extremely mad. And then the George Floyd situation, watching that video, it made me extremely mad. But then, like, I brought it back and I said, look at the city council going back and saying, hey, where are the cops, right? Like, where are they at? I think that they are needed. And again, I'm excited for the solution. But when you add COVID into the mix, right, and you see the authoritarianism that is developing within a lockdown during a pandemic, I think that that's even more scary than what we're talking about initially when it comes to police. Because you're now, there are videos that are going viral of people who are in a gym, and this gym owner is just trying to have his gym fucking open. People work out. He needs to pay for his family and all this shit. 7 cops show up, in mask. They're in his gym. They're like, dude, you got to shut down, man. Like, you got to get shut down or you're going to get arrested. It's going to be $1,000. And this was in London. And they're like, you're going to get $1,000 fine or £1,000 fine, the first time. Mm-hmm. And the second time it might be more expensive. The third time you're going to jail just for trying to keep his business open to feed his family.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here on that one. Once again, and this is not something I was going into. You're talking about breaking what the current law is. I'm not talking about whether or not we agree with the law. Because you're saying you fundamentally disagree with that. Same with the cheeseburger thing. That's ridiculous. I think it's a ridiculous law. I think it's, you know what I mean?
Same with checkpoints, though.
Yeah, no, but the difference is that's a constitutional, I don't know. I'm not talking about whether or not a law is correct. I'm talking about the actual enforcement of said law.
Sure.
And how the police handle themselves during these things.
Yeah.
Checking to see, because the difference is, even if you don't agree with the law, technically that gym owner was currently breaking whatever law was set in place by the governor.
It was an ordinance. It wasn't a law.
Whatever. Breaking whatever it was on purpose. I may not agree with it. I may think that he's in the right. That doesn't matter. He's breaking whatever it is. So I get why they're enforcing it. As to where the checkpoints and the random unconstitutional stuff and all the other videos, there's no evidence of even breaking a law. You're talking about randomly the stop and frisk and all that. That's unconstitutional. You can't
think
just stop someone to ask if they're breaking the law for no
Two things. Yeah, you're completely right. One,
and probably not, not white people or being not being stopped and frisked too often,
Yeah, that's part of it too.
But not to delve down that route too much.
And we'll probably get into that. That's not what I wanted to get into right away.
And
But
honestly, before, and I hope this isn't segueing into something, but it came back up in my mind, and I've said this on this podcast before, is that the people we put in place as far as politicians go, who are supposed to be the overseers of society and make society better for all of us. Basically, what laws are is there's a problem in society, and as opposed to them going, wow, let's really get to the root origin of this, like let's say a cheeseburger on the subway, right, because of littering, as opposed to coming up with a better solution for maybe recycling bins, or, man, let's make it more aware that, man, let's keep our city clean, do a campaign there. They go, no, fuck all that. We're just literally going to make it illegal and then start arresting motherfuckers who are eating cheeseburgers.
More money in that.
And then we're going to make money off this. The same way with a lot of these things. I disagree with the idea of laws in the first place because they're literally the most bullshit answer to a problem ever. All it is you have a problem. And you have uncreative minds that cannot solve the problem, so they just go, make it illegal. I guess we'll start just
revenue.
Yeah, I guess we start just throwing motherfuckers behind bars.
Honestly, another version of poor tax.
But isn't that your job as a politician? Your job as a politician should literally be trying to make things less illegal and actually solve the problem that's happening.
You're completely right
in society because of this.
You're completely so. To answer your question to that, man, I had a 2-hour conversation with my cousin Bobby last night, and he made a great point. And he said this to me multiple times, and it goes hand in hand with what you're saying right now. To the point where, when those politicians made that platform, to break the law to eat a cheeseburger, the city should the people who live in that city should be more aware of the people that they vote in to make certain laws like that. I've never voted locally for my own city. I think I did once back in like 2012.
I did once when I could first vote.
Yeah.
When I could first vote, I did.
So we cannot, I think voting matters, not for the presidential election like we talked about last week.
Oh, for sure it's more important on a local level.
It's more important on a local level. And if people are aware of who they're voting for in their own cities who are making these laws, that's when maybe you could see different change.
And that's our own fault too. We're all guilty of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's simple. Just looking into your own local people.
No, yeah.
But in that case, you also need, man, I'm going to mention it and then go away from it because I don't want to go off on a whole new tangent.
Yeah.
This also comes with the size of jurisdictions and cities and all that, where I talked about in a separate podcast about how a smaller government is easier to manage.
Yeah.
And by a smaller government, I literally mean smaller, as in physically smaller, as in smaller population amount for a set area. It's way easier to manage and vote in someone for your town than it is a governor or a president.
Absolutely. And just, okay, so to segue back, because this is where I was trying to connect it, and I'm sorry I get a little lost. I know I'm hopping around a little bit here. We were talking about police and having too much power. Well, police have so much power and they have so much shit to oversee because so much shit is illegal to do and they have access to so much shit. Could you imagine if just, man, we decided as upper level government officials decide to actually put money in preventing these the problems of society at its core and fixing them at their core to where they're already fixed, and then now it doesn't even have to be illegal. Like you just, I know this sounds crazy, and then police have all of a sudden less obligation to be pulling people over for stupid ass fucking shit and stupid societal things because laws do not fix problems, and apparently neither do politicians. But no, so that's where I was stemming. If you really want to have a relaxed job and have better police, you need to fundamentally change this. We're just going to make it illegal because we don't want to spend the time and the money to actually go to the core of the problem.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And then it falls on the shoulders of these individuals, who are, man, I hate to bring this up, but man, it takes twice as long to be licensed as a hairdresser in Missouri than it is to get a gun and to be put out on the street as a police officer.
Right.
I mean, some standards there are a little wonky.
So that's what I want to get into. That's what I'm going to get into real quick.
I know that pisses a lot of people off that I...
Paul asked about my solution earlier, and there's two. I'm going to do these out of order that I wanted to. But One, obviously, which would be the hardest one, literally the hardest one, is it has to stop being about the money. Because right now, it is. A lot of the laws are about, and a lot of the random stops and all this different stuff is about the city making money. And I mean, they've proven that with like the traffic lights that were set to the traffic lights and cameras that were set off or to the wrong time on purpose to make money. And it took a guy like literally 3 years. This is in North Carolina or some shit, taking 3 years to prove this to the judge. And the judge was finally like, yeah, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't have got this. And they need to and they went through and fixed the entire city's system because it was literally rigged in the first place to make the city money. And there's a ton of stuff like that. There's a ton of laws out there that are literally only to make the city money.
That happened in Kansas City. Anybody living in Kansas City knows those traffic lights that were on 71 going like right outside, like a little past 39th Street, I think is when they start, or maybe a little bit before. I can't remember. But there was like...
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
One's at like 70, or it used to be at 75th. But literally people were dying because they were so worried about getting a $100 traffic ticket that they were slamming on their brakes whenever they saw a yellow light, because they're worried about getting a $100 ticket, and then somebody slams into the back of them, literally did more harm. But it took, a couple of years for the city to be like, oh man, the revenue is not coming in enough, and now I guess people are dying now. So
no, there's too much of it that's about money. And I can speak on that for my dad's a truck driver, and he luckily had a good cop who let him go away with it scot-free. He ended up running a red light because he's driving a fucking semi, and the light changed so switch, it literally doesn't make sense for him to step on his brakes right, like in that timing or whatever, to step on his brakes because he was going to stop in the middle of the intersection. So he went through, the cop pulled him over, he explained the whole thing to the cop, he even did the whole, like, his fucking training manual there that talks about, like, how long it takes to stop and all this, going at a certain speed, and he's like, it literally wasn't going to happen, And the cop was cool, cop let him go. That's a different, I was just bringing it up because he brought up the lights. So yeah, first off, it has to stop being about money, and I don't know how to fix that. I don't. That's a solution, but I don't know the course to get there to fix that.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, which you have to fix the other part first, so it doesn't really matter. But the second thing, and I've said this before, we've all said this, is that cops, and I stand by this with teachers as well, if we've mentioned this, but for right now, cops should be paid immensely more than what they are right now. And I know there's some people out there looking at me like, what the fuck? Why should they be paid more?
Because they're always talking about defunding.
Let me
defund
finish.
it and then you fix it, right? Why are you talking about paying them more?
Exactly. So yeah, let me finish. Cops should be paid way more than they are right now. They're a very important part of society, an incredibly important part of society, and they should be paid a lot. And what comes with that responsibility is their training should be a lot more intensive. Maybe it takes 2 years to become a police officer, but then maybe you're making $150,000 a year as that police officer. You bring up a demand for the job by making the job worthwhile monetarily for them and for their family, to where they can support their family, doing an incredibly dangerous and worthwhile job for our community. But at the same time, you cannot have them in there after going through a month and a half of training, 6 weeks of training to make life or death decisions for random citizens.
I think that's obvious.
But right now what we have is 6 weeks, and I don't know the exact amount. This is a guess. I think it's around 6 weeks of training. It could be, my bad if it's more. It might be 3 months. I don't know. You have 6 weeks of training or whatever it is, and then they make $35,000 a year. And then they literally, these are people making life and death decisions on an everyday basis. That it's
$35,000 a year making life or death decisions.
It's ridiculous.
It would be interesting to see like people's decision-making skills for someone who makes $150,000 a year as opposed to someone who makes $35,000 a year. When it comes to making a decision for their job, that'd be very interesting to see. I think it's kind of blatantly
and also
obvious.
the training too.
Yeah, 100% the training.
And
for sure.
If I was going into surgery for my ankle that I broke last year, and I heard that my doctor had 6 weeks of training and $35,000, I'd be like, well, like just going ahead and cut off my fucking leg then. Like, and I know it's probably surgery. There's a lot more intense. This is probably not the best example. But man, these are people who are literally, if shit goes wrong, you can be dead as a citizen. Like we've seen this.
Same situation.
It's happened.
So do you think that
this is a real thing that needs to be addressed?
A different solution could be, I mean, kind of like what we talked about, like being more aware of like what your city politics are and not having these strenuous laws or these ridiculous and ambiguous laws.
To where cops aren't even put in that scenario. So
exactly.
it's coupled with it.
Right.
pay more for police officers, give them more training, but they make exponentially amounts more than what they do now, and then actually make the laws to where they're not burdened with such ridiculous ass bullshit.
Yeah.
Every day, to where not everything's fucking illegal.
And
first of all, that eliminates so much evil whenever you get down to the root
and
issue.
not
Because
only-
you're not fixing anything by creating a law.
And not
the law
only-
never fixed fucking anything.
Most of the time.
Not only that-
99% of the time.
Not only that, but they could require less cops, and then the cops that are there are making more money. You know what I'm saying? And you create the demand for it, and everyone wants to do it. Then that's how you pick the best people.
Right? The
You know
more
what
the
I'm
demand
saying?
there is for the job, you have a better selection process for the job. Because right now, with everything going on in the world, I bet it's hard to get cops. I bet
Yeah.
it's hard to get
Oh, yeah.
police to work. You're like, hey, do you want to go out there, risk your life, not only for the normal stuff you'd be risking your life for, but also because everybody hates the police right now, so a random citizen could just go off and shoot you because they're against police
Yeah.
right now. By the way, here's $35,000 a year. Like, no, like nobody's gonna.
No, not a chance, man.
And like I said, the money's got to come from somewhere, which is where you run into the problem again. But I think that gets into a whole. I'm not going to talk about it. It does get into a different conversation about where our taxes go, but that's something for a later time.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but yeah, you could definitely wiggle some different taxes in each city to make sure that cops make more money without it really even affecting the budget currently in this fiscal year. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, like, they can cut budgets, they can adjust budgets and change different shit. But before I want to say one more thing. Is we're not saying that this is the end-all be-all solution. This is just simply just a regular solution, like just a solution to make it better than what it currently is. Like, we are human beings. Like Jesse always says, we're flawed individuals. We will make mistakes. Like, there are still going to be police who shoot people, even if these solutions were to go into place. But it would most likely
bad things happen. It's
Yeah.
just you want to lessen this and make a better world for everybody. And the problem is we're so arrogant to think that, man, no, this is America, and this is the way that America's run, and it's the best. And why would you ever change what's the best? Once you have that mentality, then you never change anything, and things only get worse. When progressively, whenever you probably look at it over a timeline, things have only gotten worse. You're
getting into something else that doesn't deal with police and all that. You're getting on
I know, and I don't want to do that. In fact, I'm going to urinate.
I think
you guys can take back
I think another solution, honestly, another fucking solution for better policing, start passing out some fucking rookie cards again, man. Some baseball cards, some football cards. I miss that shit.
What does that have to do with policing? What are you talking about?
I'm just saying I felt more comfortable around police. When I was like 5, 6 years old, the cops would always chill up at the high school.
I didn't know anything about that. I never.
Yeah, I would. In our city, I'd go up to the cop car. He'd be like, "Hey, man, here's some baseball cards. Here's some football cards." Anytime a cop was up there, man, at the high school just chilling, you knew to go up to the police car and ask for baseball cards or football cards. They always had them. Granted, they weren't like the good ones like Tops or...
like I said, I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, it may have just been like just a few, you know, but I'm just saying that was one thing like that familiarized me with the police at a young age at 5, 6 years old. Didn't really know what to think. But for that first reaction to be like that way, I'm like, hey, man, these guys are cool.
Well, I think a big difference now, too, is, and we've talked about this, is a difference in time as well. The fact that, like, and I can't say I remember because I'm not that old. I wasn't alive back then. But apparently in the past there was the whole, not stereotype or stigma, I'm using the wrong word, the positive version of whatever that is. That, like, cops would help old ladies across the street and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. You know, they were there for their community. Man, it's like a problem for them. Like, it's taking them out of their way. This is like 3 years ago, back when I was living over by the Casey's over there. I was literally went to Casey's to pick up a pizza or something, and I come outside, and this lady's locked out of her car. This, probably in her, like, 50s. Locked out of her car, and it's just her, and she didn't have a phone for whatever reason. Casey's let her use the phone, though, and then I let her use my phone because she didn't want to go back in. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Point is, literally called the police to see if they could come help her out or whatever. By the way, you guys know this. You may not out there. The Casey's where we were is literally
Next door
to the police station. Like, from Casey's,
50 feet.
You could piss.
Maybe
You
like
could
100.
piss.
Maybe like 100 feet.
You could piss
But-
and hit the fucking police station.
Yeah,
at
you
Casey's,
can.
man.
Not only can you see the police station, you can see into the windows. Like, you can. It is right there. The police station is right there. I could have walked over there and walked back with something to open her car in less time than it took for them to get there. But yeah, have to call again like 30 minutes later. call one more time, realize it's not their job. You can get a locksmith or something like that. But it was more of they were like, yeah, we will send someone out, blah, 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 all this. And then when he got there, he was like offended that he had to be there. And why would he have to be doing this right now? And all this different stuff. And I'm like, man, what happened to the whole protect and serve thing? Like I get that maybe this isn't your job. I get that maybe it's not actually part of your job, that we should have got a locksmith or something like that. But like, does the not common decent person in you at least say like, hey,
help this old lady out?
Yeah,
this poor
hey,
fucking
have a
old
good
lady
night.
out.
You know, blah blah blah. Like, I don't know, man. That comes down to just
Man, it's so weird because you would think that would be the opposite. You would think, and I could be completely wrong, and maybe this is just my mentality. I'm not living in this guy's shoes. So, and there might have been other variables involved in this, but you would think, oh man, I get to go to a call where I have no worry about my safety, and I literally just get to go and help out
And you're
my
getting
community, and I'm getting paid for it, and I get to feel good about, oh man, I helped this person out, and they got home safe because of me, and they weren't stranded somewhere.
no, because she
And
could have
shouldn't
literally
that
been trapped there with.
Shouldn't that be the mentality? I don't know.
And maybe that was just the personality of that one police officer,
I'm
you
not
know.
a cop.
And I don't know what they're dealing with at the night. They could have been jammed up and only had 3 people on patrol, and they could have been out dealing with other stuff. There's
you know
always
what?
always hidden variables.
But those hidden variables don't matter because it requires in everyone's job that they don't change who they are. Like in our industry, yeah, there are days where we feel like we're not on top of our game, but we're still required to provide a service, you know what, to the guest or to the customer. And I feel like as a police officer, yeah, we kind of are a guest, or you know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
Like
It's a stretch, but I get it.
Granted, they're dealing with something extremely way more mentally taxing, you know, like completely 100%. But if they went through more training and they got paid more money, I think the outcome could be different, like you said. But I want to ask you 2 questions. What do you think? And I want to say this before I ask Johnny and Jesse this question. I support police. I truly, I don't think that we're advanced as a civilization or society to where we can operate without them.
No, I 100% support the need and the officers themselves.
Yeah.
I think under the circumstances that's created is just really shitty.
Which, once again, that's not the police's fault. That is the system's fault and the law's fault and a whole bunch of other issues there. But the actual people who are willing to go out there and risk their life for what they believe is a greater good, I support them.
I think that police should also know the Constitution. Like, I mean, more so than the average person. And they are order followers. That is another scary thing. They're going to follow the orders of your local government and what they decide that they're going to implement. That's very scary. But my second question would be, what do you think a world would be like without police?
What was the first question?
Sorry, the first question. I don't have 2 questions. I guess I had one statement, then a question. What do you think? Not this year, but let's say last year or even the year before. What do you think?
Just in general, modern times, a world without police officers.
Yeah.
So, the first thing you look at is what you would do as an individual. So me, if there is no police whatsoever, I'm doing exactly what I'm doing right now. That changes 100% nothing for me. I'm still going to go home, live my life the exact way that I live it. You know, probably watch some YouTube videos, laugh, drink my Trulies, you know, do a podcast. That doesn't change anything for me. Now, there are some people then, and once again, this is all speculation, but I'm assuming that there would be somebody there. Like with anything else, a stock market crash, you know, there's an opportunity there to be able to get away with some shit. So there's a handful of people, I think it'd be the minority, but would be like, oh, police aren't here. Now I get to get away with all the shit that I wanted to do. And then they go out and do it. But that's a very small amount of people. But then the issue with that is that once that 2 to 3% or whatever, that's what I would assume it to be, probably only like 3% of
the United States
people
population.
that would actually change their actions if there wasn't some authority watching them and they would go on a rampage. The problem is they would shine so evilly bright is that it would cause chaos amongst the other 97%, and then it would just kind of spiral, and then everybody would kind of be, you know, worried. So you do need that. No, we have to have authority in some way. there has to be authority somewhere in society. It's inevitable. That's just how human beings work. So that's my mentality on it.
My thoughts on it are actually really similar to Jesse's, if not pretty much the same as what he just said. The only slight difference is I think that the one thing that we would change or should change even right now with police officers existing, we've talked about in the past, and I don't want to use the word militia because I feel like that is used the wrong way and people take a bad viewpoint on that, but more about neighbors caring about each other, which is, in theory, if I am good friends with my community and my neighbors, I have a neighbor next to me named Jim. I like him. He likes me. So, and that's a fact. That's not even like some made up thing for the story. Like I have a neighbor named Jim. I have one named Steve. I don't know the guy next door. Point is, if we were closer with our community and the people around us, out there doing barbecues, the American dream, all that jazz, as like realistically, if Jesse lived next door to me and something were to go wrong at my house, it legitimately makes more sense to call Jesse than it does the police. But with the current laws in place, I would get in big trouble for doing that. I would get in massive trouble for doing that. But when it's my life on the line, it makes more sense to have that happen. And vice versa. If something happens at Jesse's house, it makes more sense for him to call me and the two other people right there, and we will get there faster than the police would and take care of whatever needed to be taken care of to protect the people around us and our community and our family and our friends. And that eventually that grows out into a bigger and bigger situation.
So the statement is you're saying the community takes care of the community, but right when you say that and the government isn't taking care of the community, that's when it becomes... So the government can take care of the community, but right when the community tries to defend itself and create a law, which is what government is, right, essentially.
Just one big community?
The current government. The issue is the current government. And then there's the issue because they're trying to handle things within themselves. And we haven't elected people. Even though us doing that, that's an action of election. And that's an action of deciding position of power and how we handle things on here. But,
I mean, we've talked about it.
Not to go too far down the road. We had a podcast about
we talked about it with Dan and
no, yeah, that's why I didn't want to go too deep into it. But just to answer your question about not having police,
that's what it would.
I would love for something like that to be in place.
That's just what naturally happens, though.
I know, but the thing is, right now, though, if that were to happen right this moment, God forbid, if that were to happen, there would be huge legal ramifications.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you can't. If you and I are allowed to make decisions like that.
If I came into Jesse's house and shot someone who was pointing a gun at Jesse, the amount of time that I would be in fucking courtrooms, even though on site he's pointing a gun at Jesse and then I shoot him, the amount of time I would spend in courtrooms, the amount of money it would cost me, and then maybe even still getting like jail time for it kind of thing. And then even add on to the top of that, they would bring up against me, well, why didn't you call the police right away? Blah, 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 all this different stuff. Like,
because I couldn't call the fucking police.
Because I didn't have time. Something's fucking happening.
If you, man, it wouldn't surprise me at all, and I have no facts to back this up, but if you look back to what we would consider, being in the 21st century, and then like looking back at societies that were considered lawless societies, the difference between what they were doing and what we are doing and the shit that happened then and the shit that's happening now, I bet you isn't too fucking far off.
No, just on a larger scale now.
Yeah.
Because there's more people.
And a smaller scale works better. We've had this conversation too. It just logically...
Well, so I did some quick math, and this is just to say there's 320 million people, or 300. I just averaged at 320 million, divided it by
in the United States.
In the United States, and I divided it by 20,000 people or 20,000 cities. There's like 19,500 cities in the United States. It's right around 16,000 people per city. If you averaged it out, which that's not the case because there are some people in more cities than others. But I'm just saying that's how many cities there are. That's the average, 16,000 per city. That was just a question earlier. But I think what I wanted to lead into, and I think we've kind of hit it hard on the police thing, and I think that it kind of is going to transition pretty well, is the fact that you don't, I think like the foundation of the Constitution, does that not smell a little bit like anarchy?
No.
Like, you don't think so?
No.
Like, anarchy, that's not being neighborly. Like, you can't be an anarchist and be like, hey, like, you're going to look out for my back.
I believe that most people, when they think anarchy, they think the wrong thing. But the Constitution is not anarchy.
No, I'm saying
I
the
think
foundation. Like, I'm just saying in reference to like communities looking out for
and
each other.
I'm hard disagreeing
that's
with you.
But that's no, me too. I have to disagree with both of you, man.
What do you mean, both of you?
Even from what you were saying, not to like romanticize anarchy. I don't know if that's what you're doing or not. I don't want to misconstrue your words. I'm sorry
I wasn't
with
talking
that.
about anarchy at all.
Okay.
So anarchy,
it's my bad on that.
the definition is a state of disorder due to absence of a non-recognition of authority.
Of authority, government, or authority.
Well, government is authority, yeah, or the police.
a non-recognition of whatever currently is happening. Because once again, you can get into this. Anarchists still have to get together and have meetings, and fucking somebody heads up the meeting of, hey, what are we going to do?
Authority.
It's literally redundant. It's the idea of being in an anarchist group. Somebody's leading that shit. That's government. They're coming up with, hey, this is how we're going to do our anti-government things on a government scale, and it's on
Smaller
popular
government,
vote.
but still government.
It's on popular vote.
Let me ask you a question though.
Maybe I'm misconstruing it.
No. And I just want to ask a few questions. The reason I ask this is because I'm fairly curious because I myself, being 31 years old, I didn't truly know what anarchy meant. I just had it in the back of my head that anarchy's bad, and if it were to happen, like it's just chaos, and the world's gonna burn. It's Mad Max, and it's just like that's what anarchy would lead to. And I'm just curious if that's really even the case. And my question is it so hard to believe that a group of people can get together and not name someone a leader? Or, you know what I'm saying? Or someone that has authority.
That's
kind of what we tried to do in America, right? Is we didn't want a straight up leader. We wanted checks and balances because we understood the flaw within it, right? So we needed to come up with something better to where it's not just one straight up leader, not one. But the problem is
that got corrupted too.
The whole federal government's lumped into one fucking thing that decides our fucking futures for us, and we have state power is fucking diminishing, and the federal government becomes more and more powerful as years go on. They're able to tap our phone lines. Nobody gives a shit. You were talking about how the thing that I was super worried about like 6 months ago went by the wayside, and they're about to pass that shit.
Oh,
that bill that literally the Earn It Act
Act
is literally, nobody knows about this. Nobody knows about this shit. All your freedoms are going away. No, so if you talk about rebelling against that, that's not a sense of anarchy. That's a sense of you want to reestablish a government that's beneficial to you as an individual.
No. Yeah. I mean, of course, like a new form of government, obviously, over the one that we're currently in. I'm all for.
Man, we should go over the Earn It Act for real, because
I'm just saying specifically, Johnny, and I know you're about to hit it. Why can't a group of people get together and not form some form of authority? Like we all know, like you said, the 97%, Jesse, we're all just, we want to go to work, we want to come home, we want to watch this and that. There's just that 3% that ruin it for everyone.
When you're ready, I got an answer for you.
What's up?
Two things. One, you asked if anarchy would work. I don't think anarchy can even exist. Like not saying it would or wouldn't work. I think it's literally impossible to exist.
Fundamentally, it's redundant. Even the definition within itself.
Yeah, let me keep going. But yeah, no, it is. It wouldn't even exist. And then two, you talk about, can a group of people to get together without picking a leader or something like that? In theory, yes. In practice, it would happen without you even knowing it. Once again, let's say we decide this is a fraternity house or some shit. There's 20 of us living here. With 20 of us living here, it would somehow come down to someone being responsible for saying, "Hey guys, it's the first. We got to pay rent and all that." That is a form of government.
Those are priorities. Like just like getting the basics in order for that house to be in order. Stuff has to get done. I agree with that. But
that's a form of.
I'm talking about like legitimate, like logistics, like police stations and governments. I'm not talking about small shit like that. Like a community could get together without a government and still be prosperous and be a fruitful city.
Okay, so I'll use your example then. What would happen is you would still have all the same stuff. You would still have police stations and all that. It just wouldn't be designated that way. You know what would happen? Naturally, Bob, Terry, Dan, and Micah would all be responsible for protecting people because they're the ones who have the most training, know the most about guns, and they're the ones who are good at that. So even without us voting them and us getting along as a community, that would naturally occur.
So like you said,
and then you have the police. Like
you said, it's almost impossible for it to even exist.
It can't exist.
So basically, anarchy is almost like a utopia.
I wouldn't say a utopia. I would say like a dystopia. it's a thought. It's an
So
abstract.
Hold on. So for a utopia, you think that there needs to be authority for a utopia?
I think for a well, I don't believe in there being a utopia.
I'm just saying if there was one.
If there was a utopia,
you wouldn't
it would
need
happen naturally because that's how we work as humans.
But I'm saying you wouldn't need authority for a utopia at that point.
It would happen naturally in humans anyways.
Okay. I just think if there was a utopia at that point, authority wouldn't even be an issue. Like you wouldn't have to govern over people.
Just where everybody's just equally happy to the person to the left.
At
and
which
the right.
point they wouldn't need government, and that is anarchy. Is what I'm saying.
That's also
it's impossible in humans.
No, I know that. I'm just saying it's almost the same thing.
A dystopia, by the way, is a very much achievable thing.
Yes. Yes. We're almost there.
So don't misconstrue the two. But a utopia is impossible because what I find most fulfilling in my life might differ from yours.
No,
so
I get that.
We'll always have that conflict there.
For sure, yeah.
Until we're
But
all
that's-
gray
but that's also
and connected to the
necessary.
same computer.
Yeah.
And I know this sounds shitty, but it's also necessary, and this is how human beings progress, is to have this constant back and forth and hopefully being respectful about it and then developing as far as understanding goes. Human beings are difficult, man.
There's not much on the anarchy thing. And thank you just for briefly talking about it because there's really not much more we can go into it on.
The idea of it is
Dude, I love
interesting, but-
Rancid. I love Rancid. I fucking love that band. That band's legit as fuck. I'm all about the punk rock.
I just think the
scene.
term anarchy gets a bad rap. You know what I'm saying?
I had some gutter punk ass friends.
I think
back
that
when I
people
went
just
out to-
don't realize what anarchy actually means.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
It's a big difference between anarchy and punk rock and the actual definition of anarchy.
yeah.
And you know what? And okay, so whenever, literally, if you were to close your eyes and think of an anarchist, what do you picture in your head?
I told you Mad Max, man. That's what I thought
Dude,
anarchy
no,
was.
it's the punk rock scene.
It's different for everybody what you picture, man.
Dude, for the most part, people nowadays think of that and what I would call the gutter punk.
That's what you
scene.
grew up in, though. That's
Yeah, I
what
know.
you grew up seeing.
And
it as.
dude,
So it's
dude,
different for everybody.
dude.
He's got the Mad Max thing going.
And those people are some of the most like loving, caring individuals that I've met in my life. Coming out of like
so
Buzzard
just
Beach
let everybody do
and
their own
shit.
thing.
No, and they didn't. That wasn't. Man, I'd have to talk to them again as far as like a group of people, but they legitimately care. They care about everybody. Dude, they're not racist. They're not. You know.
I mean, I'm sure some are. You can't.
I
Really.
mean,
Yeah, you don't know him personally on a personal
Yeah.
level, man.
from the ones that I've met, they're decent fucking people. People who claim to be anarchists.
And there's always gonna be bad
And by the
apples.
way, they work at fucking Chipotle and then throw on their cut off sleeve leather jacket with all the
But see, that's my thing. That's not an anarchist.
the bands on the
That's-
back. But that's my understanding of it. But those are good people though. Those people.
I don't know.
are
I
good
think life is interesting, man. And we're getting close to the end of the hour. We got, about 10, 15
That was a
more
quick
minutes.
hour.
It was, man. It went by really fast. And Jesse, I mean, just some of the last words that you said, and some of the shit's hit at home for me here recently. And I don't know why, man. Just here recently.
It's been rough this year, man.
Yeah, and
it's because things have been rough this year.
But I don't know why I didn't see it earlier. And you know what? It was meant to be how it was meant to be. And I think I've kind of already mentioned this, but how you just brought it up, like, I'll be honest, man. There was like a good few months or maybe majority of this year where I was probably a pro-Trump supporter. Like, I'll be honest. And I'm sure you guys figured that out, you know. And I know last week's podcast.
It wasn't a lot of detective work. You basically came up to me and said, "Hey, I support Trump."
Yeah. Basically, I mean, but I did it in like a non. I told you guys, I was like, yeah, man, I don't support Trump, but watch this video. Watch this video. Like, he sounds super legit, super JFK like, and minus all of that, man. For me, like, just listening to people on the left and just how they're not willing to listen to anyone, and then come to find out
There's people on the right like that too.
that are exactly, you're right, the same exact people are just set in their ways and their morals, man. And I'm just tired of putting a left or right on it. And I know that's always going to be the case with America with the two-party system. And for me, I think what I've finally realized at 31 years old on this earth, plus 9 months in my mother's womb.
fucking Bernie Sanders, god damn it.
No, fuck our political system, man. And that's why I delve a little bit into anarchy, because I'm just looking for other solutions than what our current options are. But hold on. I've realized, man, that is what is most important in life is ultimately my wife and my two daughters.
There you go.
Like, and I think that I at some point in some point in time in the past 3 years, like, I've been trying to chase something that I should have never even been chasing, or it was never even there, because I allowed that political arena to enter my life and take hold of me, who I am, and get into conversations with people and arguments that were unnecessary, because it doesn't matter. I'm not going to change their mind. They're not going to change my mind. I'm willing to listen as opposed to some people who aren't, and I think more people should be more willing to listen. But what I'm saying is, enjoy the moment, man. And I think that's so hard for people is just to sit back. And I think, and it's for me, it's a day-to-day process. I'm not in a rush. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about next week. I'm in the moment, man. And I'm enjoying that moment in time with my family, most importantly. And then, once a week I get with you guys. I'm not going to be thinking next week, what are we going to talk about? I'm enjoying this fucking moment for what it is, man. And then tomorrow, whatever tomorrow brings, I'm going to worry about it then.
Absolutely.
That's just where I'm at. And it took me 31 years to discover that. I don't know why.
Paul, one of the more amazing things that I just heard from you talk about is your ability to be able to not just hold true to one side and then wear a color. I'll always be a Chiefs fan, but Chiefs don't have any political say over the world, so I feel as this is okay. I can be a Chiefs fan for the rest of my life, no matter who's the quarterback or who's the head coach. I wear the colors of my city, and if we're shitty,
unless the head
shitty.
coach murders people every Tuesday.
Well, yeah, that changes things a little bit because then moral issues come in. But outside of that, what you're able to say is, man, I'm a human being, and I have every right and every freedom to change my my system of belief and what I said. You can go back and be like, hey, man, I don't think I was 100% there, which is what everybody should be doing, by the way, constantly, because everything's changing. Everybody's mentality is...
My thoughts from when I started the podcast compared to my thoughts now,
Dude.
way different.
I know. Dude,
way different.
People have the same beliefs 10 years ago. I'm like, man, have you just seen some shit? And
have you witnessed anything?
Have you grown as a human, at all? Man, no, there's nothing wrong with that. Man, it's a weird time to be alive.
But I think for me,
election years.
Yeah.
You're big about coming out about it. No.
Yeah. I just more or less for me.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I may be middle ground. And I think you guys might be middle ground. I could be wrong, but I think you're kind of middle too. It's just the fact that they're not willing to listen to each other, so nothing's ever going to get done. And it's been that way since this two-party system has been initiated, probably more or less since 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act was implemented, or even when propaganda was being able to be. I mean, there's a lot of shit that
was always
and that's what we were. That's where I really ground myself is the fundamental issues that I believe. It has nothing to do with the president that's coming in.
But hold on,
Johnny. So Johnny shed light to me that I've never heard before. I was like, man, that fucking makes sense about how they're a face. And I was like, people take way too much seriousness into who the fuck is president when actually there are so many underlining individuals that are running it outside of him. First of all, what one person could run all of this?
Doesn't work.
Shit doesn't happen. It does. It's literally. I was like, man, that makes so much sense. Not to get into too deep in this, but there is nothing wrong with believing in something and having an opinion, and then now you feel as though you flaked because you had to change shit. And we're all just doing our best here.
It's a good thing. It means you're learning.
You're learning.
Doesn't mean you flaked. It doesn't mean you flipped. It doesn't mean any of that. Any negative connotation behind it.
And nobody, and I think the biggest problem in this country is actually how much both sides just hate each other because they won't hop onto the other fucking side. And that's so wrong.
But just think about it like this. Like I said, initially when I was a Trump supporter, I let some of that right, or whatever that shit Trump shit is, and some of the shit that they believe in, I let that come into my life, and I let it consume my day-to-day.
Oh, don't do that.
You know what I'm saying?
You can't do that, man.
But that's what I'm like.
I mean, you can. You're allowed to do whatever you
right.
want, but that's...
I'm not saying it did, but it just a couple of hours, it would affect me. You know what I'm saying? And that went on for such a long time. And even probably since I've been 20, it's been that way. I'm just so immersed within what's going on in our culture. But to take a step back from that and just enjoy the moment, that's where it's at, man.
I have seen literal family members of mine, which this was years ago, literal family members of mine get into a political argument on Facebook and then not show up for it wasn't Thanksgiving, but it was another family get together, and not show up because they didn't want to see that other person. They got in an actual argument, didn't want to talk to each other for 6 months. That's absurd that you're letting this stuff get in the way of your friends and family and the people who actually matter. Because if you think the president matters to you more than your fucking brother or your uncle or whatever,
exactly.
That's absurd. That's absurd.
But that's what's slowly happening, man. And like I said, I don't get on Facebook anymore. I know for sure
some
that
people,
you don't, but
some people take their beliefs that seriously. It's where it's the end all be all for them. And if you're not on board, then
it's toxic, man. The right and left paradigm, the two-party system is extremely toxic, man. At least now in the 20th century, man, because it is consuming people's lives. Like I said, get on Facebook and you see people going back and forth. The situation you just described, that's happening in
everywhere.
in many households throughout this country, man. It is literally dividing us, and it's working. And it's fucking shit up, and something has to change. And like I said, if people just take a step back and just enjoy their life for what it is and the people around them, I think you're going to see a different country, man. And that's when you're going to see people realize, well, shit, this was a sham the whole time. I mean, at least just that part of it, not maybe the backing of the Constitution, but fuck, man. Shit.
Think about what's going to be good for you, your friends, your family, your community,
yes,
and the people around you. If you're worried about what some person in New York is doing that doesn't affect you at all, like why?
Right. Which, I mean, that could trickle down, and I get...
If it's something big, but I'm talking small, little small stuff, like...
And dude, yeah. I'm just saying, like, if there's anything you could take out of that would be amazing, man. If people could do that, people are going to continue to do what they want to do, and that's fine. But and I respect that, and that's their opportunity. Or that's what they want to do. I'm completely on board with that.
And one thing I've had to come to realize is, no matter how like, oh man, this seems like, man, we're all in this together thing. There's always people out there that are like, well, no, this way that I think. And this way that I was raised of thinking is 100%, and I can't waver on this. And there's no changing those people either, which,
but and again, what
hurts
this
my soul a little bit. But
what this podcast has taught me,
can't change everybody.
Yeah, and again, I know we've talked about it before. Johnny and Jesse and I have gotten in heated arguments, and I'll just go out there and say it. I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast. Like, I don't believe what the world that we live on is what they portray, right? I don't believe we live on a globe. They just put it that way. Johnny and Jesse believe in quite the opposite. But, like, there have been nights, like, after Johnny and I got into it, since then, like, Johnny's willing to listen to me and hear me out. And I'm working on willing to listen to him and hear him out, which I think I have.
We've gotten, I don't mind saying it. If you don't, Paul and I have gotten into a legitimate, like, not a fight, no fist thrown kind of thing, but like I got kicked out of Paul's house. Like, we were not friends for a moment.
I was pretty drunk, but
we were not friends for a moment.
It was like a week.
Yeah, I said for a moment, for a very short amount of time. What?
Said I feel like you didn't want to bring that up.
My bad, Paul.
No,
it's nothing against you.
I'm cool, man.
It's nothing against me.
Yeah,
that's life. It happens.
Man, you get a bunch of guys together, and you have some cosmopolitans,
some spirits
on the back deck,
Cosmos, Appletinis, what we normally drink regularly.
To the cranberries, sometimes things get heated.
Yeah, but the point was that you shouldn't let things that don't truly matter kind of divide you. Like people getting into an argument on Facebook and then
not talking to each other, going to a family dinner. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, Johnny and I found our differences, and now we can be both considerably drunk and have a legitimate conversation about how I feel the earth isn't the way it is. And he's like, no, Paul, it's this way. This is how I believe it. And I'm like, you know what, Johnny, no, this is how I see it. And then we go back and forth, and we may not ever agree, but we can at least talk and have a conversation about it. And you can be like, wow, I didn't know that. And I could be like, well, I didn't know that, and we could change each other's minds eventually down the road. Maybe so, maybe not. But we're talking about it without fighting.
Absolutely. So being a respectable human being is what you're talking about.
Yes, man. Which be a
respectable human being. Don't hate other people for believing different than you.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
Some basics there.
And I learned that in debate and forensics, and I think that's why maybe I'm halfway decent at it when I'm sober. Is like I don't know.
That's what's so beautiful about debate, because the whole point about debate is they make you so neutral to where they exclude, screw your morality. You're just going to debate these two things.
Yeah.
You could
Pro
be
or
on
con,
either side.
Yeah.
And that's a really, honestly, even on a spiritual level, people should experience.
It's weird, man. Yeah.
Because
you flip a coin.
Because if you can't debate the other side, what is that, the Lincoln Douglas style?
Public forum, policy is like one topic.
I don't know why Lincoln Douglas is.
Lincoln Douglas.
That's what I've said here before, and it was my own kind of thing, but it's like, or my own philosophy for myself. But the whole, in my opinion, if you cannot debate against your own opinion or your own beliefs, and you can't find truth in the other side and try to attack your own beliefs with credible facts and like really go against yourself, if you refuse to do that, then in my opinion, like that makes your own opinion and beliefs invalid because you're
Yeah.
not willing to
That's debate,
see
man.
the other side.
That's
you're-
literally
honestly,
debate.
and you're too emotionally involved into your opinion, and
You're not willing to take logic and fact.
don't allow emotions to dictate your opinions and beliefs. I mean, everybody would think that would be simple, right? But
I mean, to a degree.
Dude, but guess what? All of our opinions and beliefs are based off of today is off emotions first.
There's
Yeah.
some emotional responses.
It's all
there's
all
some-
emotions, man.
There's some that make sense though. Like you could get onto like murder and stuff like that being on an emotional level. That kind of stuff
That's
makes.
not what I'm. Not the easy ones to go around. You know, to where everybody agrees.
I'll be
I'm
honest though,
talking
man.
about-
I've been really working on that though, trying not to have my beliefs be off emotion. That's one big thing I'm trying to work on.
And it's and,
And
to have that
everybody's-
understanding that
everybody's
your
different.
emotions are
Yeah.
fickle. That your emotions are fickle, and your emotions will change, and how you feel about how emotionally you feel about things will change over time. You can be desensitized. Anybody can be desensitized to things. Anybody can be heightened to emotion to things given the right scenario, man.
You ever seen movies or anything where like a counselor or just in general they're like, "Hey, how about you go home and sleep on it? Think about the decision before you make this irrational and emotional decision," right?
We've lost that in today's society, man. We're in the here and now, and we want it instant gratification.
Even talking about movies, if you take a horror scene of a movie, right, and you get rid of that scary, beautiful score background to it that doesn't build it up, it's not scary anymore because the music emotionally drives you to being scared.
Which there's reasons for that.
If you
There's
think
not-
you're impervious to emotion, no, you are very easily influenced by emotion, and that is not a good way to process thought and to make decisive decisions.
Why you think they got that weird song on those Sarah McLachlan dog commercials?
Right?
to make you cry.
Dude, no, don't even laugh, dude. That's such a great example. Like, you feel so much worth in the arms of the angel. No, you fucking, I know that probably.
That's to where if they had One by Metallica playing in the background, it's a different.
You'd be
No
like,
one's donating.
You'd be like, hey,
Yeah.
this is middle as fuck. Honestly, you'd probably get more donations. I would have donated to it if it would have been Metallica coming in with, like, you know, I'm trying to think of a Metallica song. I feel like a piece of shit. I should know a Metallica
Well,
Enter
song.
Sandman.
The classic one.
I think if you guys got anything out of this podcast tonight, man, and we're a little bit over the hour now, is like something definitely needs to change within our police system. I know we've shed light
And
on
just systems in general, man.
Yeah, systems in general, but our specific topic was policing today, and we've hit it a little bit, but I think we did it differently this time in a way that we haven't before, looking for solutions, which no one's really wanting to talk about. Mainstream-wise, I haven't really heard any solutions, just other than defund. But like, hey, we came up with a few solutions.
If you have debates against our solutions or your own solutions or whatever, like let us know. I
Yeah.
love reading the comments.
Yeah, there was a guy who commented a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "Hey, man, like I want to come on your show, and we can have a talk." Like, I don't think he was specifically saying he wanted to debate, but he liked what we were talking about, and he wanted to join the show. I commented back to him, I was like, "Hey, man, give me your contact. Come on the show. Let's talk, dude. Like, I'm all for it."
It's kind of the point of this podcast.
Which
Talk-
we never debate. We never debate. We sit down like human beings because human beings don't interact, debate, forum. In a forum style, you know, like that's not how we like to interact, how humans interact, which is just talking about things. And
communication.
go
is
figure the
key.
name of the fucking podcast, you know. I don't know
Yes.
where we came up with it, but
You did, but so yeah,
Richard Linkletter's Bowl of Milk. That's the name of the podcast, right?
there you go.
but just yeah. I mean, if you liked our solutions, man, hit the like button. If you didn't like our solutions, maybe put in the comments below on maybe something. Don't. I mean, like you can say whatever you want. But like, if you have a different solution, let us know. Like, it'd be interesting, honestly, just to hear different solutions that people have for the police, the current police situation that we're in right now. Your thoughts on anarchy? I thought that was pretty interesting as well. And then just the take at the very end, I thought it hit home really good.
I was gonna say with the whole comments thing, just like we were talking about evolving and learning and changing who you are as a person, the same thing goes for like, I'm not good at thinking of arguments to my own, like the police thing, or I've talked about the taxes before and how they should be done. It's hard. I can come up with some arguments, but I'd love to see more educated people coming up with solid arguments against it so that I can learn something.
Yeah.
No, exactly, because that's the only way you progress, and then we'll somehow mesh in the middle somewhere, hopefully, and then have the world be a better place. That sounds fantastic to me.
It
And,
does.
and also, by the way, if you're watching this video and have an issue with a thumbnail,
yeah.
I mean, just going ahead and tell us what your issue is.
Yeah, man. Just put it in the comment on the video that you don't like. We see the most recent comments, so we see everything.
If you have an issue with anything that we say, just
let us know.
Yeah, just let us know, and we'll talk about it. I feel like we're reasonable,
Yeah, we had a thumbnail removed, and maybe we'll get into that in the next show. But
I don't know why I brought that back up. I'm
it's
still a little
fucking
salty.
Yeah, I'm a lot of salty, man. Tyler put a lot of work into that.
It's kind of like
thumbnail.
and I don't want to get into much, but it's like our field of work where, like, when someone leaves something on the receipt, and it's like, you didn't have the balls to just talk to me.
Yeah, no, that's exactly that brought up the same amount of emotion. Like, if you have an issue.
Like, we're human beings. Just
Come
talk
and
to
have
me.
a conversation with me.
Talk to me about it.
Conversate.
Let me see your side of it. Don't just say nope.
Yeah, that's cowardly in my opinion, but that is what it is.
Talk Junkies has some interesting things coming your way, so just stay tuned, man. Each and every single week, we shoot on Sundays and we upload sometime between Monday and Friday throughout the week. But we are working on some very interesting guests that are going to be joining the show soon. One in particular, I'm not going to say any names, so just stay tuned for that. I'm going to be working on some more guests as well. I want to get a preacher on the show to go one-on-one with Jesse. I think that'd be pretty interesting.
It would be.
So if any of you guys out there know...
So I can be completely ostracized from my family. I'm really trying to do that.
You're the one who... I text you and asked you, and you said,
no,
yeah,
I
man,
said,
I'm
of
all
course,
for it.
man. I said, of course. I need to back up what I say, so...
Anyways, if any of you know a preacher that's willing to come on the show and go one-on-one with Jesse about religion, hit me up, man. I'll send you my email. That would be pretty awesome. But anyways, like I said, we're working on some great things for you guys, honestly, because that's what it's all about is people who watch our videos. We do it for you guys and girls and gals. The best thing you can do is share this video, like this video, hit the subscribe button to all our junkies out there.
Stay fly and ring the bell.
Girls.
Dude,
and
no,
guys
he
and
reminded
gals.
me of the